Alise Mills is the executive director of the Conservative Voice. Is it the Conservative Voice or Conservative Voice?
Well, I don't want to just own territory, so I'll say Conservative Voice. There are a lot of conservative voices.
But you are heading up what is kind of a third-party activist group. I mean, Rebel, we do news, opinion, activism. You're out there with Conservative Voice doing activism as well, on behalf of conservative ideas. I was saying last night at our event, we need more of that in Canada because the left is very organized. There's many groups, so I welcome many more groups like yours coming to the fore. Tell people what you're trying to do and why we need more groups like yours.
Well, to start off, just to give you some numbers, there's well over 200 groups, activist groups, that represent left and progressive ideas in Canada with strategic partnerships and relationships with their U.S. counterparts. In Canada, there are two for the conservative side. And I'm not counting Fraser Institute because I wouldn't say that they are a conservative political action organization. They are an economic think tank, and they obviously err on the side of fiscal conservatism. But when you get outside of sort of the institutes, there's no organization like Conservative Voice or anything like it. So apart from the Rebel, of course, and a few other newsy type sites or conservative pundits, there's no real organization that represents the voice and echoes the changing movement that we have. Because when we saw it today, the Conservative Party is going through a bit of a revolution, and I think it's going to go through a renaissance as well, and that's really exciting. But there's going to be opinions on both sides of the arguments that we saw on the floor today. Who is going to talk about that? It's going to be conservative political action groups and advocacy groups that will represent that and get that message out.
And then come next election, though, I mean, a big part of why Justin Trudeau and the Liberals won the election was the assistance of third-party groups. Is that part of your goal down the road?
Absolutely. I think one of the greatest disappointments that I have about the electoral system right now is that we're not honest about the influencers of our elections. We have taken away that glorious title charity and allowed political groups to become part of that. One of the things I think we missed on the Fair Elections Act was allowing political action groups a legitimate space in the election world and taking them outside of the charities. That allows a fair, clean fight. I can unshackle myself and actually go toe-to-toe with groups like what we saw in Ontario that worked very hard to defeat Ontario progressive conservatives out there. What we saw in Alberta, what I've often fought here in BC. I want to be able to come out very loud and be able to, not only just purchase ads, but be able to organize and fundraise like a political organization. So, because you're right, it is so important. Instead of having all these shadowy groups, these 200 shadowy groups on the left, and trying to connect how they all work, you have to figure out who your opponent is before you can even learn how to fight them. We have great difficulty doing that because it's still very shadowy based upon sort of a half-baked piece of rules and legislation around it. I'd rather us just be honest and have political action groups. Conservative movement definitely needs more of those types.
All right. What was your takeaway from the convention? I was talking with Monty Solberg earlier. He said he just feels like there's a great vibe here, and it's very different than other recent conventions.
It's really chill. It is. I thought it was going to be the rumble in the jungle, like it was going to be the warfare. I thought this was going to be these little tiny, what I think are sort of no-brainer type things that we have to move on. I thought it would actually be utilized by certain groups to spark these old wars we saw in 2000 and 2004, those types of wars. It didn't happen, and that tells me the membership really understands the roots of conservatism in Canada, which is personal liberties, personal freedoms, smaller government. Why we can't fight those same rules on, say, for gun owners, and I support gun owners, and I will protect their liberties and freedoms any given day of the week. But you have to allow me to be able to apply that same philosophy, those same rules to those in the gay and lesbian community and transgender community. I don't think any conservative wants to be known as the conservative that limited someone else's life or asked government to layer out a whole bunch of rules to control their lives and define who they should be. That's not the conservative movement. And when you took a look at it like that, I think it's really hard not to support that argument. So
that motion, you're talking specifically about the motion to remove marriage as being between one man and one woman. My view on it was that genie's not going back in the bottle after 13 years. So that passed to remove it. That passed, not unanimously, but by a wide margin.
It was 1,000 and I think 49 to 400 and some odd change. So for us in the conservative movement, that's a definitive move forward. And we need to unshackle from the past and old fights in order to be able to change that tone that everybody's talking about, because you can't change the tone without changing the behavior. And the behavior is rooted in how we move, through our policies, through our communications. We also need to get beyond this so we can get into the areas that I think are more important. We need to be more expansive in our communications in a more diverse way. So we can talk about the economy, but let's talk about it in the sense that, like, add on the social sectors, which is not just the typical social stuff. It's the green and clean prosperity movement, it's technology incubators, all these things that conservatives are actually involved in their real business lives, but somehow we just sort of ignore it when we talk about the economy, because we're so worried if we do that, we're giving up on our beliefs and support of the energy community. It's not one or the other. Yeah.
All right. Lise, I'm going to let you, the convention's breaking up. I'm going to let you go continue to be chill. Enjoy.
I'm going to enjoy it. Thank you very much.
Thanks for watching. Click here to never miss a Rebel update. Want even more of the Rebel? Well, click here to become a premium member.